This is Sports Talk with Phil Kornblut and Chris Bergen. Sports Talk is heard across the state on radio affiliates of the Sports Talk Media Network and is streaming live on sportstalksc.com, as well as Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. The South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to call in is 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now, here are Phil and Chris with tonight's edition of Sports Talk.
All right, welcome in, everybody. It is Sports Talk, big Thursday night here on the Sports Talk Media Network. Phil Kornblut, Chris Bergen, and Josh Cohen. If I sound a little edgy tonight, if I sound just a little bit on edge, do I sound a little bit on edge to you, Bergie? Josh, do I sound
worried?
If I sound a little bit on edge, you should be. It's finals time, boys and girls. It's finals time, and I know for most of you who weren't lucky enough to be born Celtics, like I was, you don't get it. You don't get it. But this is what we live for. We live. If you're a Boston Celtic, you don't live for an Atlantic Division title. You don't live for a first or second round victory or an Eastern Conference champ. You live for the finals, and it begins tonight in the Garden. On the parquet. Should be fun.
Not quite.
What?
Whatever they've reimagined the parquet.
It's the parquet. It's still the parquet. It's still the parquet.
It's not the parquet floor of the old Boston.
It is the parquet floor that was in Boston of Larry Bird and Bill Russell and John Havlicek and Larry Siegfried and Bailey Howell and Don Nelson. You want me to continue? Satch Sanders. Shall I
just want you to prove to me that they moved the old floor from the Boston Garden into TD Garden Arena.
Just watch some of the bounces. Yeah. It's still got funny bounces, especially around the Leprechaun. Funny things happen around the Leprechaun to the opposing teams. This will be a lot of fun, though, because you got superstars on both sides and the return of, well, it's not the return, but it is kind of the return of Kyrie Irving, one of the most hated sports figures in Boston history, I would imagine, as he returns to Boston. These teams, I don't know. They've both got their strengths. They both got their weaknesses, as all teams do. Boston has won 4 in a row over Dallas in the regular season games that they've played the last 2 years. But that means nothing now. Of course, the Celtics had the best record in the league, and I think Dallas was like the 5th seed in the West, something like that. So they had to work their way up through the bracket, so to speak. But here we are. It's finally time for the NBA Finals, and I am jacked, Jack. I am pumped.
How are they going to deal with Luka?
Jacked. He's going to get his.
How will they defend Luka?
He's going to get his. You let him get his.
How will the Mavs deal with Jason Tatum?
He's going to get his. But, he hasn't shot the ball well in the playoffs. If he finds his three-point shot consistently, then it's turn out the lights. Because I would agree. Been one of the areas where the Celtics have been lacking in the playoffs is just he's been shooting about 26, 27% from three. Celtics still haven't played a great game yet offensively. Defensively, they've pretty much brought it every time out, except for that one game where the Heat shot the lights out. Maybe that one game where Cleveland had a great shooting game. Otherwise, they have brought the D. So, yes, it is Celtic time here on Sports Talk over the next, hopefully not much longer than a week. Hopefully we can do this thing, get it over quickly. And then here in the Sports Talk studio, we will raise the number 18 banner, the 18 championship banner, to the rafters here at the radio station. We'll have a ceremony. Yes, we will. Yes, we will.
I can hardly wait.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think how many times.
We won't have to deal with that nonsense anymore.
How many times in the history of Sports Talk have we won? The Celtics have won a championship. So we went on the air in '84. Let's see. I think the Celtics. That was about the time we won 3 in there under Bird, right? About '84. 80,
kept going between the Celtics and the Lakers.
87, somewhere in there. And then
that was when the NBA was fun to watch.
And then won one in 2009. Should have won one in 2010. I think my years are right. Should have gone back-to-back. Blew a 14-point fourth-quarter lead to the Slackers. By the way, you see where, according to reports, the Lakers are eyeballing Dan Hurley to be their new head coach.
That came from out of left field. because I'm not sure anybody thought Dan Hurley would consider the NBA. And if you're Dan Hurley, even if it is one of the more prestigious franchises in the NBA, do you even think about leaving UConn? I mean, I know they can throw a mountain of money at him, but I'm pretty sure he's got a mountain of money. And, I mean, I guess you, like Billy Donovan, you just want to go see if you can coach at the highest level. I mean, that to me, that would be the only driving force, right? I mean, he's going to be preseason probably top 5 next year with his team.
Oh, probably number 1, number 2.
And they may very well, yeah.
So, I mean, a couple of things to think about here, and then we'll get to the serious stuff that involves us. This is just, we're just talking off the top of our head here. LeBron is the coach killer.
Sure.
I mean, you go and try to coach LeBron, and you're going to be fired. I think only one coach is still coaching where he coached LeBron, and that's the guy at Miami who's a great coach, and Pat Riley's got his back. He's never going to touch him. He survived. Of course, they won a couple of rings there in Miami? But you look at the litany of coaches that have fallen by the wayside in Cleveland and with the Lakers. I mean, he is a coach killer because so much is expected of LeBron James to win championships, and when he doesn't, they fire the coach. And then if you're Dan Hurley, I mean, do you really think you can go in and look at LeBron James and look at Anthony Davis and say, okay, this is how I want it done? Are they going to respect you as a guy just stepping up from the college ranks, and here they are, first ballot Hall of Famers, and they're going to start listening to you all of a sudden? I mean, I really think the Lakers made a mistake by firing Ham. I thought Ham, even though he didn't, do much in the postseason, I really thought Ham had that team under control and playing as well as they could. I mean, it's a messed up team. The Lakers are a messed up group because they throw pieces on the wall and try to see what sticks.
Dysfunctional, I think, is the appropriate term.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think they get along. I don't think there's anything like that. I just don't. They're just trying to piece things together instead of building. And, not to rub salt in the old wound, but, I mean, the Celtics have done it the right way. People laughed at Danny Ainge when he made all those trades and collected all those first-round draft picks, and look what he's done with those first-round draft picks. I mean, you look at the Celtics lineup, and, Brown's a first-round draft pick. Tatum's a first-round draft pick. Now, I know they've added some pieces. Horford was there. He left. He came back. And Derek White's been a tremendous addition to him. Porzingis is healthy, a tremendous addition, and he's supposed to be healthy and ready to play tonight. But guys coming off the bench, first-round picks, where he was able to use those picks to collect some of these other talented players. So he's done it the right way, and the Celtics are built for the long run because they got these guys under long-term contracts. Okay.
If Hurley goes, one quick final comment. If Hurley goes, is it more of an indication that he wants to coach at the NBA level, or is it an indictment of the current setup in college basketball? And even as successful as he's been, does he see the writing on the wall that he may not be able to maintain it? And let's get out of here while the getting's good.
Yeah. I heard an interview with Jim Boeheim today. He was on a show up in New York, and he was asked that very question. And he cited the current state of college athletics as, he said, still a mess. Yep. And he said the current, how did he put it, the current plan that they floated out there, he said would fix about 10% of it. So he says it's still a mess with the transfer portal, John, and no rules, and the invasion of the NIL aspect of things, and you got all these outside entities now that are going to have their hands involved in college athletics and on the college athletes. And that, I think, is the greatest danger, if you ask me, are these outside collectives. Or maybe the inside collectives, but they sign companies on the outside to handle things for them, which my thought as an outsider looking at it is, why do you pay all these athletic directors to do their jobs if they can't handle this themselves? I mean, what is the big secret? What is the big math problem that you have to work when it comes to putting together an NIL deal for a high school kid coming to college? Am I missing something here? Is it rocket science? Is it much more complex than I give it credit for?
It's got to be, because you would think it would not be all that difficult. Here's what we're going to pay you. Sign this contract. Let's go to work. it's like hiring a coach. I would think you run it through the same legal forms and your attorneys and the whole 9 yards. Now, again, when the ADs first found out about pay for play, it was never supposed to be this. It was actually supposed to be the kids doing all the legwork and then getting rewarded for that. But we know that ship has sailed. It's the reason I'll never call it name, image, and likeness anymore, because that's not what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's flat out pay for play.
You're exactly right. And you're right. It's like practically everything that happens in college sports. What was intended never turns out to be the case. And this is what I'm citing here. This is what I'm pointing to. All of a sudden, you've had really an entire industry now develop over NIL. And I can't believe everybody is in it for the kid, Other people got to make a living and got to eat too, and they're going to make it off the kid or make it off the system or do something. Just look at the situation between the quarterback Jaden Rashada and Miami and then Florida, and now he's at Georgia. So let that be a lesson. Okay, on to the more pertinent stuff here locally. But again, I want to wish all Celtics fans listening around the world good luck tonight, and let's hope it goes well for us. Why? Don't be shaking your head, Josh. What are you, a Heat fan, or what are you?
He's a Pistons fan. He's
that's right.
He's
from Detroit.
He's a Detroit guy.
Yeah, who are the Pistons playing in the?
They can't even get the number 1 draft pick when they deserve it in the lottery.
I'm telling you.
That's how bad things have gotten for Detroit.
What a mess. All right, USC baseball front. No new news today that I'm aware of. But let me just throw a couple of ideas out there at you. We'll get the phone calls here coming up. Phone number 888-898-2525, South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number to reach us here on Sports Talk. So I think that obviously Ray Tanner is still moving forward, doing his work and all of that. I don't have any hard news. I don't think anybody has any hard news yet that I've seen about actual interviews with particular potential candidates and where all this might be heading at this particular time in terms of actual fact. Everything is, I would say, supposition, which is I'm about to give you supposition. So I think that tomorrow's Friday, so we're practically a week into this thing. My hunch is if Ray Tanner doesn't hire his new baseball coach by the first part of next week, whether it's somebody outside the program or he elevates Monty Lee. And I'm saying Monday, maybe Tuesday at the latest. Monday, there will be some super regionals probably still to be determined on Monday because you got the Saturday, Sunday, and if necessary, Monday games. So if that's the case and he has not hired his guy by then, to me that would indicate there's somebody still playing that he wants to meet with. Agree or disagree?
No, I think that's a fair assessment. I do.
Okay. So we got that point. I think that if he doesn't have it done, say by Tuesday, then he's looking to meet with somebody who just lost in the Super Regionals or is going to the CWS. Then, if you don't have anything by the end of the week, let's say, then he's definitely going after somebody still playing who's in the CWS. That would be my take on that. The field out there right now, again, you have to consider this when it comes to the financial side of it. I don't know what each of these coaches. I think Dan McConnell makes a ton of money at Louisville, doesn't he? I don't know what his salary is off the top of my head.
I think it's over $1 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he makes a ton of money, so he'll want more to come. I imagine that Chris Godwin from East Carolina would want more money to come from there. Don't know what he's making. I would imagine he's making, if Kingston was making $725 here, I imagine Godwin was probably making $500,000, maybe $600 there at East Carolina. I'm just going off the top of my head. Coach Pollard at Duke, again, I would imagine it would. My point is, you're hitting a time where these college programs, these athletic departments, are going to be facing upwards of $20 million or more as part of this settlement that all schools are going to have to step up and pay. They're going to have to account for that in their budgets. So my point is, is South Carolina going to be a little bit strapped here for cash, as any school would be that's going to have to fork up $20 million plus as part of the settlement? And does that impact what he can do and who he can go after on the outside? What do you think?
I think it's a really interesting question to ask because you're looking, and I just looked up Dan McDonald, and he's an interesting story too because his contract runs out next season, and he's making $1 million a year. So is he using rumors of USC's interest in him possibly as leverage to work a better extension when he moves forward? I don't know. And I think they've got to pay over $1 million, whomever they bring in, with the exception of probably Monty Lee. You could almost double his salary, and he's probably going to be happy. I don't want to speak for Coach, but I mean, I would think at $250,000 a year, if you bumped him up to $500,000 a year, I think he'd probably be pretty satisfied. But I was intrigued by your point about if they don't make an announcement by Tuesday of next week, who might they be going after? You look through the 16 teams that remain, and I think the most obvious choice would be the assistant at Tennessee that's starting to gain some traction that everybody thinks is in the top 3 or 4 in terms of the candidates. So do you wait and see how far Tennessee goes before you move on? I guess it's Josh Elander, their associate head coach and recruiting coordinator.
I think so.
He's been one of the names. Yeah.
Yeah.
He'd be about the only one that's still playing, though, that I would think makes sense.
Going back to Dan McDonald, and, of course, he's always a very popular name, a guy that played at the Citadel, was on the Citadel team that went to the College World Series. But then he did great things. He's done great things at Louisville. Let's see. He has gone to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 College World Series during his time there. So he's done a great job. However, he's missed the tournament 3 of the last 4 years.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? He went to a super regional in 22, but he missed the actually, you go back even the canceled season of 2020. So he's had 1 postseason appearance since the College World Series in 2019. This past year was an average year, 32-24, 16-14. Didn't make the tournament. The year before, he was 10-20 in the ACC, 31-24. I mean, how do you judge hiring a coach with that kind of recent past, versus somebody else you might be looking at?
I don't know. I don't know how you measure. I mean, he's a proven winner, there's no doubt, but is he starting to tail off? Is his message just wearing thin at Louisville and he needs a change? Excuse me, I'm not sure. I think what you don't want to have happen if you're Ray Tanner is to have another repeat of Sean Miller when you were going through the basketball situation and whether or not he was in Columbia and people saw him out to eat. No, he wasn't here, and all the reports going back and forth, and you look like you had egg on your face by not getting him. I think they ended up with a very good coach. I like Lamont Paris, but you've got to keep this a little more private and figure out a way. And maybe baseball's a little bit easier to do so because I don't know that those coaches are as recognizable in the public as basketball coaches are. But certainly you don't want to drag out a couple of weeks where it starts looking like you get desperate again.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So anyway, we go from that. Now, Friday is tomorrow. Friday is typically a news dump day.
Yeah, I can't imagine they'll announce it tomorrow.
I'm just saying tomorrow's Friday, and it's normally a news dump day. So you could, if you are set on what you're going to do and you're going to promote Monty Lee, you could just issue a statement, and we're promoting Monty Lee to the permanent job, a head coach, blah, 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 blah. We'll have a press conference next week. You could. I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying you could do that. That's happened before, and I think it's something to think about. I don't know that it's going to happen. I'm just throwing it out there as something that could happen in this scenario. But
would Ray Tanner do that, though, as big a baseball guy as he is? I realize his team is not in the NCAA tournament, but would he want to pull away some interest from the super regionals to announce a head coach, or would he just wait, like you said, until next week?
What does he care?
That's why I'm asking the question.
He's a guy that would never go to Omaha unless he took his team with him. He never went to the World Series without a team. So,
Gary Gilmore said he wasn't going to go either until his team got him there.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, they did.
Yeah. So, I mean, no, I don't think he cares about that. I think if his mind is made up on who it is and a good time is to announce it tomorrow, even though the super regionals are getting going, he's going to announce it. Be my guess. So, again, I do believe that Monty Lee is just my own personal feeling with a little bit of education, but I do think Monty Lee is still very much a viable candidate at this point. The outsiders, I don't know who is a true and I don't like to just throw names around just to see what sticks, I'd like to talk about who are true viable candidates. I don't know who is a true viable candidate besides I do trust what John Whittle writes. And when John Whittle writes that Chris Godwin at East Carolina is a true candidate, then, I believe that. If and when it's reported that he is out, then we go on to, the next one, whoever that happens to be, whoever that next popular name happens to be. So that's kind of where we are, which I think is like where we were yesterday and
and Monday
and the day before. Yeah, waiting for all this to play out to see what eventually happens here. So if we see or hear anything else, we'll pass that along. Coming up
coaching
tonight,
searches they're good for one group of people, and that's us in sports media. The coaches themselves, I'm sure, hate it when their names pop up, and certainly the person who just lost his job certainly doesn't like it. But from our standpoint, they're a lot of fun, especially right now towards the end of the athletic season. Get us something to cross the finish line with.
Well, sure. I'm not a big fan of coaching searches, but they do give you some good talk show fodder, and for the folks that run the websites, gives them plenty to comment on the message boards. All right, coming up tonight, Mike Morgan. I'm sure Mike will have plenty to say. 7:05, and then Nick Delatorre, who is senior writer for Gators Online, will join us to break down the Florida baseball team. Florida and Clemson. We'll be up at Clemson tomorrow. Of course, they don't play till Saturday. Press conferences and practice tomorrow. Be up at Clemson. Have that on for you tomorrow night on the show, along with, of course, our normal Friday fare. Jeff Owens. We're racing in Sonoma this weekend. And, of course, George Bryan III. George Bryan III, there is now a George Bryan V. Congratulations to the Bryan family.
Very
Congratulations
nice.
to GB4. GB5 was born just the other day. And so there's the royalty line continues. The torch has been passed on to how many Chris Bergens the What's are out there?
I am the only one. I had a chance to be what would have been Jacob Alexander Bergen the fourth, I believe, or third, but my mother didn't want to go that route. So I am unique in that regard.
That's good. Yeah, there's only one of you. There's only one of me. How many Josh Cohens are there out there, huh? Just one. By the way, before we get to phone calls after the break, do want to mention that today is the 80th anniversary of D-Day. And I tell you what, boys and girls, anybody that goes to war is a hero in my mind. But those young boys that had to go to that, I just can't even imagine what they were thinking and what they were feeling as they were going into that. God, the courage it took to get off those boats and do what they were asked to do is just incredible. You do it because you were ordered to do it, but my goodness, even to order somebody to do that had to take a bunch of courage.
Hence the reason they're referred to as the greatest generation. Because
Absolutely.
I don't think we have people in the United States anymore, sad to say, that would put their lives on the line like that, because you're sitting in those boats knowing that as soon as that gate drops to dump you off in the water, you're probably going to get shot. And to still try and take the beaches at Normandy and in France, just remarkable stuff. And when Coastal was out in Honolulu this year, going to Pearl Harbor was an eye-opening experience. I would love to be able to go to Normandy and just see some of the museums over there, too, just to see actually, what those young men had to deal with, because I can't begin to imagine.
No, none of us can who were not there. I have friends who had fathers who were involved in the invasion. They tell some stories. I guess they don't talk a whole lot about it. The fathers who are no longer with us, most of them. It was 80 years ago. That means if you're a survivor, you're probably in your upper 90s, because you were probably 18 or 19 or 20, I guess, if you were sent over there. Okay, we'll hit the break. We'll get to your phone calls when we come back. Sports Talk on a Thursday night. Be right back. Okay, we're back on Sports Talk Media Network. Phone number 888-898-2525. Let's go ahead and dive into the phone calls. Oh, I did it again. Recruiting coming up. Should mention that Clemson gained another commitment today. Big offensive lineman Rowan Byrne out of New Rochelle, New York. About 6'6", 295. He's a big one. Big young'un. So he commits to Clemson. Second commitment for the Tigers from the group that visited this past weekend. More on him and more in recruiting coming up a little bit later on. Okay, now we go to your phone calls, 888-898-2525. And it is Gamecock Larry. He's with us up first tonight here on Sports Talk. Welcome in, Gamecock Larry. How are you?
Just fine. I'm going to be listening Monday afternoon, Mr. Field. You're going to have a hard Monday because you're going to have two teams that's going to go down to defeat by Monday afternoon. Well, Boston have a couple more games to play. But you're going to be on a losing streak when you come in Monday afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you something. I checked it out, and they got 9 coaches in the SEC baseball coaches making over $1 million. And it's about time. I just thought, it's about time for us, for the Gamecocks to break out the checkbooks, go ahead and hire one of these big-time coaches, bring him in.
Well, Larry, you want to write him? You want to send him a check? You want to send him a check?
Oh, yeah. I'm going to send him a check. Tell him no catch until next week. But let me tell you, when you done messed me up, I had everything planned right down to the wire, and you done messed me. Oh yeah. Oh, Lord, I done forgot. Mr. Phil, you done messed old boy up. Man up.
I'm sorry.
No, I can't even remember my own name sometime. I'm in bad shape.
I understand.
But let me tell you something. I watched some of that thing today about D-Day. Did you see what happened to the leader of the United States of America? Did you see that?
No, sir.
Did you see that?
No, sir.
No, wow. You see those dogs sitting there on TV. Those dogs, the leader, the president of the United States of America, dozed off. Man, if I had a gun, no, I ain't going to say that because they're going to come get me. I better watch what I say.
Well, now, wait a minute. Whoa, wait a minute now, Larry. Hang on a second. So he dozed off. Okay, I get it. You doze off when you're waiting to come on the air here. So what's the bigger crime? You dozing off or the president dozing off?
Mr. Field, I'm nothing. He is the president of the United States of America. He is a disgrace to the United States. Well, I better shut up before you put me in jail.
Yeah.
I better be quiet. I don't want you to talk politics. But Mr. Phil, I just hope you do okay. No, you're gonna come in Monday afternoon. You
be right here.
Well, yeah, we will. We lost. Well, yeah, man, we got 2 more games to go. Okay. I love all y'all.
All right. Thank you, Larry. Thank you.
Okay.
Have a good night. Thank you, Larry.
Secret Service will be on their way to Larry's house.
Holy smokes.
Oof. Yeah.
Eesh.
And it didn't take him long to get off the Monty Lee bandwagon. Remember yesterday they were like, he already said that they have the coach in-house.
Mm-hmm.
They need to hire Monty Lee and move. Now let's pay $2 million for one of the other coaches out there.
Mm-hmm. He's willing to, but you know what? But he ain't willing to come off his own pocket.
No. It's easy to spend other people's money.
Absolutely. I try to do it all the time. All right, thank you, Larry. 888-898-2525. We go to Rocky in Greenville. Up next on Sports Talk. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good evening, Phil.
Yes, sir.
Phil, I am calling to talk about the Boston Celtics.
Oh, you are near and dear to my heart.
Yeah, you going to keep me on the 7th?
Yes, sir. If you want to talk C's. No, I got to limit you here. We can't get too personal. We can't get caught up in our personal prejudices here?
I do have a take on the finals starting tonight. I don't watch as much sports, especially professional sports, as I used to, but I keep up with it. And I listen to a lot of radio. So just because I don't watch doesn't mean I don't know who's on what teams and who are the good players and how good they are. But what prompted June in the NBA finals, and it just makes me. I mean, like I say, I've been a Celtics fan since I first started dribbling basketball, but we used to go on vacation in June with the family when I had the big family, and we get out and it'd be doing, all right, Rocky, we're going to go out and whatever. And I said, y'all have a great time. I'm not going, what are you going to do? I said, the NBA Finals is Magic versus Bird. I'm going to be right here on this couch and watching the finals. And, you know what? Some of the guys say, maybe I'll just hang here with Rocky and we'll watch the finals. And sure enough, it would. So usually it was 2 games going on during the week, and I was always going to watch the NBA Finals on vacation. But my take on tonight's game, Phil, and I mean, like I say, I keep up, but Dallas, they got Luka and they got Kyrie, and if Kyrie's head's facing in the right direction, he's one of the best players in the NBA. Mm-hmm. And we know what Luka does. And this series is guard play in basketball, whether it be college basketball or pro basketball, when you get to the tournament and the playoffs and stuff, that's who excel. When you've got good guard play, you know it. You've kept up with it and you covered it forever and a day. Those two, this series is at least 6, I think, Phil. It's a 6-game series. Luka and Kyrie, they're going to give Boston trouble. I mean, I know that with Boston and their defense, but I think this is going to be a good one, and I'm tuning in tonight. My NBA watching starts this evening, so there you go.
There you go. That's what it's all about with the finals. But then again, I mean, we say it might go 7, it might go 6. I mean, it's so hard to predict. Who would have thought, Boston would? Well, maybe people thought Celtics were going to run through everybody because they had such a great regular season. But I mean, to go sweep. Let's see who they just swept. It was Miami, Cleveland, and who they just sweep?
Indiana.
Yeah. To sweep. That's in today's basketball. It's a very difficult thing to do. Of course, the Pacers, did lose a couple of key players. They were without one key player. They lost Halliburton in the series. So, I mean, people are pointing out how fortunate the Celtics have been from the standpoint that the opponents have had key players go down. And this is true. They've had guys out along the way. But then again, they haven't had Porzingis for the entire playoffs. He's been out. So injuries happen both ways. And whoever's got the best talent and the best scheme to overcome it, that's the team that's going to advance. I think that when you have 2 great players like Dokic and Irving, they're going to get theirs. They're going to get their points. What you have to do is limit the damage from the other parts of the team. In the case of the Celtics, if I can speak on behalf of them and in favor of them, they're so deep that you think you're holding one down. They've got 3 or 4 other guys. I mean, if Horford is hot hitting his 3-point shots outside because he gets so many good looks outside off the pick and roll, if he's knocking those down, I mean, the Celtics are almost impossible to beat. I think Horford's like the key. And he played like a young kid in the last series. But if he's making shots from the perimeter, shoot. I think they'll roll because that's going to give them all 5 of their people on the floor at any one time can consistently shoot threes, period. Thoughts?
No, I was waiting on our caller to finish. I guess he's done. But,
Rocky.
Yeah,
Rocky's
I was going to say that Dallas will by far be the biggest challenge they have faced. I was just looking up the standings. Dallas won more games than any of the teams that the Celtics have played in the playoffs so far, and they won if they were in the Eastern Conference, they'd have finished tied for second with the Knicks. So, I mean, the Western Conference certainly was, and it has been for years, much more competitive. I mean, but you're right. I mean, the Celtics were really, really good, but they haven't been tested in the playoffs. I think they'll be so starting tonight.
Yeah.
It's a much different animal on the other side, one that actually punched them back in the face, and we'll see how Boston responds to that.
I like my team's chances.
I don't disagree with that at all.
Back to the phones. 888-898-2525 is our number. And next up is Andy here in Columbia. Andy, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
I'm good, fellas. You know, Corn, you missed the most important thing that happened in sports today.
Hang on a second. Let me think.
You're never going to get this. You want me to go ahead and tell you what happened?
Please.
Hey, man, don't test me, all right? Don't test me on the first day of the finals. Don't test me. I'm going to say the most wait, man, I'm going to tell you. I know
he's not going to get this, Andy, because I know where you're headed.
The United States cricket team defeated Pakistan.
Oh, jeez.
Now,
what'd you do to go to ESPN real quick and look that up?
I happened to see that. When I was in Raleigh, there was a station on the cable there called Willow. You ever heard of a channel called Willow? They were airing cricket. They were airing cricket games.
For
from
insomnia.
India. Cricket games in India. And so I sat there and watched because I've never watched cricket before. And I'm like,
I understand it.
I can do that. I can play cricket. I mean, first of all, the pitcher, whatever they call him, he bounces the ball to the guy. What's the guy? It's not a bat. Is it called a wicket? What's it called? The thing in his hands.
A cricket?
The cricket. Is it a wicket? Cricket wicket? I don't know. What's it called? And then, the ball hits the ground, and then this guy hits it. And if he hits it into the stands, their scoring system is like really, really weird. Or if you hit it past the outfielders and it jumps over this little hump, this little outfield thing, and gets past these little barriers, that counts as something. I don't know. It's a very interesting sport. It's where baseball, baseball's got its roots. Baseball has got its roots traced back to cricket. You know that, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's go into what I really.
You brought it up. I didn't bring it up. You brought it up.
Dan Patrick today, I heard something very interesting that I didn't realize. That if Dan Hurley does go to the Lakers, that there'll be a 30-day portal opening for every one of their players, which we are looking for one other player to fill a hole. And also, I didn't realize, I knew he was an assistant, but I didn't know he was this esteemed. Luke Murray, Bill Murray's son, they were sitting there talking about him today as being the top assistant for Danny Hurley and the one who really is the architect of the offense that Dan Hurley runs in Connecticut.
Shoot the dog, will you?
They wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't go, either becomes the new head coach of Connecticut or doesn't go with Hurley to the Lakers.
Wait a minute, Luke Murray is the son of the actor Bill Murray?
Yes.
How about that? I never even knew that. Never knew that at all. Didn't even know there was a Luke Murray.
And one other interesting thing that I heard on Dan or saw on Dan Patrick today, because I watch him and don't listen to him. Well, I listen and watch. Reggie Miller was on, and he made a prediction for the upcoming NBA Finals. 4-2, Dallas. One reason. Dallas has every team they've beaten this year, beaten the playoffs, were 51 teams or over. And with Porzingis coming back, what does that do with the rotation, and how does that affect the Celtics in their play?
Well,
because you played
keep in
3
mind,
series without him.
Porzingis played most of the regular season, so they have their rotation in place.
I understand that.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to hurt.
I mean, I saw him play for years with the Knicks. I know what Porzingis is all about.
Yeah.
You know, we saw what he did down in Washington. We saw what he did in Dallas. I mean, and another thing you're talking about, Irving, they also had something that they got from a Boston newspaper, the most hated sports figure in Boston right now, the number one most hated figure, Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
I would have thought it was still Bill Buckner.
Yeah.
No.
I mean,
I think after Bill passed away, they gave him a little bit of credit.
They gave him a brief.
Got off him a little bit.
Irving brought it on himself because he made that comment where he wanted to stay in Boston. He was going to be a long-term player in Boston. He made that promise, of course, and then reneged on it and shoot the dog, will you? Reneged on it and, created a lot of hatred towards him by the Celtics fans. Plus his on-the-court behavior towards the fans, it just became an intolerable situation there between player and fans. So, and I'm sure they're going to.
I'm not a big fan of his. I think he's matured a lot though in his game.
Oh, I think he's a great player.
There wasn't much else for him to do but mature. He was a very immature person on and off the court.
Yeah,
and I think he learned a lot of things from his mouth and also his play. And but our bet's still on, right, Corn?
Whatever it is, it's on.
You gave me the Mavericks. So
you can have them.
Good luck on that.
Take the Mavs.
Good luck on that. And one last thing, Larry's check. They don't have to hold it. He can just bounce it all the way to the Gamecocks. Y'all have a good night.
All right, thank
fellas.
you very much.
Enjoy the series.
You too, buddy. Appreciate the phone call. And I kid about the dog. I love the pup. I love the little puppy. He just interrupts our concentration. We'll be back after the break. More calls.
Relax this summer with a promotional rate on select travel purchases with your Founders Federal Credit Union credit card. Now through August 31st, get 6.99% APR for 6 months on qualifying purchases, including airfare, hotels, restaurants, and cruise lines. Don't let interest rates slow you down this summer. Visit foundersfcu.com/travel to learn more. Not a Founders member yet? Founders has the financial tools you need and the personalized service you deserve. Stop by an office or visit foundersfcu.com to learn more about Founders and see if you qualify for membership. On March 1st, 2025, the promotional APR will revert to the effective APR as previously disclosed. Call 800-845-1644 for details about credit costs and terms. Membership qualification required.
Stay tuned. More Sports Talk is coming up on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Great things don't happen all at once. Big dreams take time. And when it comes to saving for college, it's those small steps that make a difference. I'm State Treasurer Curtis Loftus. Future Scholar, South Carolina's 5-9 college savings plan, is designed to be taken step by step. You can start with any amount, contributions are tax deductible, and earnings grow tax-free. So why wait? Discover the smart, easy way to save for college at futurescholar.com.
The South Carolina Education Lottery has introduced a new rolling jackpot, and it's big.
How big? Bigger than a striped bass? Reel 'em in.
Way bigger.
Bigger than this world-class golf course? Or
bigger than that.
Even bigger than the Gaffney Peach?
Let's just say with this new rolling jackpot, Palmetto Cash 5 is officially too big to ignore. Palmetto Cash 5 draws nightly, so play today and check if your numbers are winners in the Players Club app or at seeducationlottery.com. Overall odds are 1 in 10. Top prize odds are 1 in 850,668.
Coming up on the top of the hour break here on Sports Talk, Mike Morgan coming up at 7:05. Remind you that with beach season now upon us, make sure you make that phone call to Jimmy Smith, James Smith Real Estate, down at Pauley's. Let him find that great location for you. His phone number is 843-237-4246, online at pauleysvacationrentals.com. Let Jimmy and the staff work with you and work with your budget and work with your timetable to get you exactly what you need. That number again is 843-237-4246. James Smith Real Estate, Jimmy Smith, the guy there to work with you and help you out. All right, back to the phones. We go next to Jamie in Hilton Head. Jamie, good to have you with us. How are you? Yes, sir.
Good evening. How are you, sir?
We're doing fine. Thank you.
Good. As you know, I'm a Clemson man, but I care about baseball, college baseball in the state of South Carolina. And in talking with people close to the program, close to the Gamecock program. I asked him, I said, who do you want? He said, I want a combination of Monty Lee and Landon Powell. That's what I want. He said, I don't care who's the head coach or who's the assistant. But what I want is Monty Lee and Landon Powell in Columbia. But my question to you is, maybe not Landon Powell, why would you do that with Monty Lee? I mean, he came in 2 years ago. Now he's in his second year, and you've not improved. I mean, you remember, y'all were South Carolina, and I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean, y'all were a powerhouse. Don't you want to get back there? Do you really think that Monty Lee is the man to take you there?
So you're asking that rhetorically to us, and my response would be, I think Monty Lee is, in my opinion, with the staff that he could put together, as good a person as any that you could put in that job to get South Carolina back to the College World Series. I mean, did you think Eric Bakich was going to come in and turn Clemson around quite so quickly and get to a regional last year and a super regional this year and 2 wins away from the College World Series? Anytime there's a coaching change, and I say this repeatedly, it's a roll of the dice. Sometimes you hit on it and sometimes you don't. I mean, look, baseball, I think Monty Lee knows as much baseball. Excuse me. I think Monty Lee knows as much baseball as any of those cats out there. And I think he's probably better connected in the state of South Carolina for recruiting purposes. He's got the support of current members of the team. He's already picking up commitments from both high school and from the portal, as he's been asked to do by Ray Tanner to kind of hold down the fort. So,
what can he bring to you to this program that Mark Kingston could not? I mean,
different voice, different approach, a different attitude. I mean, no two coaches the same as far as the way they do things. And Monty Lee's his own man because he's been a head coach before. He's won championships in 3 different leagues. He knows how to win. So, and look, I'm not on here campaigning for Monty. Somebody asked earlier this week who I thought would be the best one. And from my standpoint, where I sit from a transition standpoint at South Carolina and keeping it going, and look, things were not a disaster under Mark Kingston. You can't say it was a disaster under Mark Kingston. He took his team to the NCAA tournament, something Dan McDonald did not do at Louisville the last 2 years. He took his team to the tournament the last 2 years and still got fired. So I'm not sure. I'm not even sure the firing is justified, to be honest with you. But it was done. 6 seasons, 7 years. Apparently the feeling was he's taken it as far as he can take it. It's time for a new voice. And sometimes a new voice comes in and sparks a program and takes it to another level. It just happens.
Well, how about maybe Chris Pollard at Duke, who's been a hit, who's won in at a lesser school, and who has he could bring the same thing to you that Monty Lee could, is all I'm saying. I mean, I like Monty Lee when he was at Clemson, and I liked him when he was at College of Charleston, but he got fired for a reason. And so do you really want to go down that road again at South Carolina, who was, as much as it pains me, was and is, I guess, the premier college baseball program in the state?
Well, I would say that Monty Lee had something to do with South Carolina getting there, working under Ray Tanner during their first run to the College World Series and helping to build this program. And, I mean, if anybody has learned something from working under Ray Tanner that he's applied in his own personal life as a coach, it's Monty Lee, because he went to the College of Charleston and he won there, and he went to Clemson and he won there. And Ray Tanner had interest in Monty the last time around, but Monty had just taken that job at Clemson, so that wasn't going to work. I would think his interest would still be there. Be right back.
Welcome back to Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network. You can reach the guys with the South Carolina Education Lottery lucky number, 888-898-2525. That's 888-898-2525. Now back to Phil and Chris with the second hour of Sports Talk on the Sports Talk Media Network.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. Good to have you with us. It's a big Thursday night here on Sports Talk Media Network across the state of South Carolina. Glad you're with us. Thank you for hanging in there with us. The second hour, always as good as the first. You know, some places people walk away after the first hour because they say, second hour is going to suck. Not here. Second hour, always as good as the first. You know, they're like your sons. You don't want to say 1 hour is better than the other. Like you got two sons. You don't want to say one is better than the other. Or two daughters. You don't want to say one is better than the other, do you, Bergie? Both hours are quality. We like them both. We favor them both.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I will say normally we have the guest take over control of the second hour, so you can base it like, for instance, the guy that's about to come on, probably one of, if not the best guest we have that we don't have in the first hour. So, you know.
Well,
take that for what it's worth.
It's debatable, you know, based on all the quality guests we have. Again, I don't like to favor a guest over another. They're like our kids. We like them all.
We do, you know? But there are certain ones you give
like,
an extra
you like
dollar
Mike
or two
more
in
allowance. You like Mike more than you like Jeff Owens? You like,
no. Those you hit on two of the ones.
You like Mike better than you like George? I'll tell George that, you know.
Okay.
You know. That you like him more than Jim Toman? I'll tell him. Time for Mike Morgan on the move here on Sports Talk, brought to you by State Farm agent Gary Patterson. For 35 years, Gary's been serving the real estate needs from Lugoff to Lexington and Columbia to Blythewood. Auto, home, life insurance, and business insurance can all be handled by Gary, who spends countless hours helping South Carolinians with all their insurance needs and making a difference in the community. So go check out GaryPatterson.net today, and Gary will go over the best plans for you and your family. That's GaryPatterson.net.
Brought to you by Love Chevy. Act now for springtacular savings on the best selection of new Chevys. I-26 at Harbison and at lovechevy.com. Together, let's drive.
All right, time to welcome in Mike Morgan, whose voice in no way equals the voice of the guy who just did the Chevy commercial. That guy has got some tubes. He's got some pipes.
Yes, he does, Phil. He surely does.
Wow, Mike, your voice has gotten deeper.
Yeah. By the way, to your point, the 2 hours of this fine program, I've always found that the second hour is an incredible 60 minutes, but the first hour kind of sucks. But so I insisted on being in the second hour, and I am proud to be part of this hour.
You lead off the second hour on Thursday night, so that makes you special.
It's an honor. Let me tell you something. 7 o'clock, prime time as far as I'm concerned.
All right. Now, if there's anybody who knows the brain of Ray Tanner outside of Ray Tanner, it's Mike Morgan. What is going through the brain of Ray Tanner right now?
You know, history would tell you what's going through the brain of Ray Tanner is very similar to the brain of every other SEC AD that goes through this process, regardless of the sport. You start off and you swing for the fences. If you go back to the football search, remember Tom Herman. Tom Herman was not going to listen to hardly anybody other than Texas. That was his dream job. But he respected the fact that Ray's a former coach in an AD chair and actually seriously considered the job, even though eventually he didn't take it. Kirby Smart was also offered by Ray and was going to take it to the point where Georgia got frightened, fired Mark Richt, some would say surprisingly, and basically blocked Carolina from getting Kirby Smart. In baseball, the first time around, he went after Dan McDonald of Louisville. He went after Kevin O'Sullivan of Florida. So I think it's the same thing. You like every other AD, you go after the big fish, and then if you don't land them, and usually you don't, then you go to plan B. And there's a lot of rumors out there of what that's going to be. I'm not convinced Ray himself knows who it's going to be at this point. I think you you weigh all your options. You go for your who's on your one line, and then if you don't nab that, you go on your two line. So I do think this. I think there's a sense of comfort knowing that he's got a guy. If everything else doesn't come to fruition, he's got a guy in Monty Lee who he's very familiar with, who the players all love, who was a great assistant at Carolina for a number of years, and, of course, has been a head coach of two programs, one mid-major and one power in the state. And so and I don't know this for sure. I mean, that could be the number one choice. But I'm just saying, based on history, what Ray normally does, like most ADs, you go after the head honchos, guys that maybe been to Omaha or they're the hottest candidate out there. And if that doesn't work, you go to line two. And if line two is Monty Lee, that's a hell of a line two. So if I were to guess, and I have not spoken with him, he's probably working the burner phone as we speak. That would be my guess on the way he's approaching it.
Do you think we could have a resolution by sometime next week? Or do you think that perhaps, you say swinging for the fences, perhaps there'll be a coach involved in the College World Series that he wants to wait on? Would he be willing to drag things out until that's over with?
If you were to make me hazard a guess, I would say in my crystal ball there'll be a press conference on Tuesday, but that is no inside knowledge. I think after the Super Regionals are complete, at that point, you remember now the portal's open. Now Monty's kind of running that himself, but I don't think you want to be waiting till after the end of Omaha, for example, to make the hire. And I don't think it'll go that deep. I would guess next week.
Mike Morgan with us. Morgan on the move here on Sports Talk. All right, let's delve further into some potential names outside of Monty Lee. Does Cliff Godwin make sense to you at East Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, if you're just asking me what makes sense, that certainly would be up there. I think what I like about Godwin is that Godwin has been an assistant with two SEC programs in addition to the job he's done as a head coach at ECU. I think that experience in the league is invaluable. I think it's really hard to hire somebody who's never been in the SEC and all of a sudden is trying to kind of navigate through those waters. I think that's difficult. But I think Godwin's a great coach out there. I mean, McDonald's been mentioned, although he's turned it down before, doesn't seem to want to leave. A lot of people say that Godwin does not want to leave in spite of the fact that a program like Carolina could more than double his salary. But money is not – it's not always just about who offers a penny more than the next guy, or in this case, about $500,000 more. You know, and then you could always go back down the Kevin O'Sullivan highway. If they get eliminated this weekend, you know, is he finally ready to make a move? He's clearly has flirted with other programs, including LSU just a few years ago. So, I mean, I think all those names are on the table, and I'm sure there's one we're not thinking about. I mean, you got Pollard at Duke. He's certainly done a great job with that program. Walter at Wake Forest. There's quite a few good candidates, but as always is the case, and Phil, you've covered more of these than probably anybody in the state of South Carolina. I think fans make the wrong presumption that you can just get whoever you want, and that's very far from the truth.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, since you mentioned Kevin O'Sullivan, let's move into some of the games on the field this weekend. First off, Florida winning a regional on the road. How impressed were you with their play this past weekend? And do they have enough in your mind to take out Clemson this weekend in the Supers?
Impressed, not totally shocked. You know, you see an SEC team with a 3 seed next to their name, and they're traveling to your venue. I'm sure Oklahoma State was thinking, my goodness, we got to take these guys on as a 3 with one of the best players in the game in Caglione. And you know they've got some talent for whatever reason. They struggled this year and barely got in. Ole Miss barely got in a few years ago, and they won the national championship. So could they – yeah, I mean, we're at the point here when it's a super and it's 2 out of 3, anybody can win it. I mean, absolutely anybody can win it. So nothing would surprise me. And even Evansville of all teams, they've got 2 stud pitchers, so it's possible. It'd be an upset, but it wouldn't be the farthest thing that I've ever seen, a la Stony Brook and Fresno State and Kent State. A lot of teams that have made it to Omaha that nobody would have ever picked in a bracket. So I think they're all good matchups, and nothing would surprise me other than I would be surprised if you didn't have at least 3-4 teams from the SEC wind up in Omaha.
What's your take on the Georgia-NC State Super Regional, with Georgia being able to host this weekend, NC State having taken out South Carolina this past weekend? It gets us to this week that we've been discussing Mark Kingston's departure. But does NC State, can they pitch it well enough to beat a team that's going to score probably 10, 11 runs?
And can Georgia pitch well enough to win games at this point in the season, right? I mean, that's been the question with Georgia all year long. Great at the plate, not so great on the mound. But no, that's another one. You know, Georgia hasn't been to Omaha since 2008. Can you believe that?
Fire the coach. Fire the coach. Fire the coach.
Well,
they have been.
they have been. They fired the guy that took them to Omaha 3 times. As a former broadcast partner of mine, Dave Perno, and everywhere we went, he used to look at the other dugout and go, "Can you believe they fired me and this school hired a guy like that?" I mean, it was killing them. It was absolutely killing them, and I don't blame them. They haven't been the same since Perno. But clearly, the guy they got in Wes Johnson from LSU, I know they're very high on him, and he's done a tremendous job in year one. Now it helps when you inherit the potential number 1 pick in the draft, Charlie Condon, and that was a guy that was a preferred walk-on who was recruited by the previous staff. But he's been terrific. Their lineup overall has been terrific. I think that's a very entertaining super. Anytime you got SEC, ACC, it's always a headliner when it comes to a super.
Couple more moments with Mike Morgan. Morgan on the move right here on Sports Talk. So let's talk about Florida Clemson. This Clemson team has lived on the edge all season long, something like, 25 or so come from behind wins, and that's a great quality, certainly is a great quality. But if they fall behind this Florida team, Florida has got some impressive credentials of their own. And if you fall behind these guys, 125 home runs, that's 6th nationally, 10th in the country, 5th in the SEC in strikeouts at about 11 per game. They fielded a .981 percentage, 5th nationally. They're going to start a freshman right-hander, Liam Peterson, who's come on very strong for them the latter part of the season. So saying all that about Florida, despite what their record looks like, I think you do have to take a step back and consider what they did at Oklahoma State to beat the Cowboys twice to win that regional as to be something very impressive. And you can't be fooled if you're a Clemson fan. You can't be fooled by the record. In fact, Eric Bakich said here the other night, he called Florida one of the best teams in the country. So what do you think?
Well, I think what I just said. I think it's an unpredictable. I mean, we're kind of going back to the same matchup, right? It's unpredictable. Clemson obviously had the better regular season. You know, the thing about being a team like Florida, and this helped Ole Miss a few years ago. It helped Mississippi State. When you get in as a team that wasn't dominant in the regular season and you kind of squeak in, I think the mentality is you're kind of playing with house money. Like, you really just can play loose. I've seen too many times a number 1 overall seed get a little tight. That's one of the reasons why they haven't won it since 1999, which is, for my money, one of the most amazing stats in all of sports. Mm-hmm. I think there is something to being able to go in there, especially when you've already got talent. I mean, obviously, Florida's always recruiting talent, but they weren't a good team all year long. They weren't good enough, and they just barely got in. And now all of a sudden, am I surprised that they've made it this far? Not really. Would I be surprised if they beat Clemson? Not really. Clemson's a better team, and I've been a fan of Eric Bakich since I covered him at Michigan, the year he took them all the way to the championship series. But I think it's a great opportunity for Clemson, who hasn't been to Omaha in quite some time, and for Florida, they can continue to play the role of the spoiler.
Do you think Caglianone's the best player in college baseball, even though he's not among the finalists for the Golden Spikes Award?
Yeah, that was a little surprising. My vote would go to Charlie Condon because I get it. Like, if you're voting just based on being a two-way guy, then Caglianone's the winner. He's the Ohtani of college baseball. But the season that Condon put together is as good as I've ever seen in 30 years of college baseball. And with the bats being what they are, now they're a little bit juiced in my opinion, but they're not late 90s gorilla ball juiced. I just think what he's done, and it's not just power. He's not just slugging. Look at the average. Look at the on base, the OPS, everything, just dominating everything. Okay. Thank you.
Mike, you getting your Big Mac with your large fries and your extra large Coke there? Okay.
It's a pizza with a salad, so it's slightly healthier than that.
You have a great meal there. I'm glad that once again you're cooking for the wife. That's great.
Yes, this is fine dining in the Morgan household.
You have a great meal and a great night, and we'll talk to you next week, and we appreciate it greatly.
Okay, sounds good. You guys be good.
All right, see you later. Always interrupting the food chain there at the Morgan family. Okay.
We have never talked to him, I don't think, where he hasn't been doing something else at the same time.
No,
That's how talented he is, because he can multitask on the show.
We're secondary in his mind. We're that redheaded stepchild.
He's either in the airport, he's at a game somewhere, at a pizza place.
He takes pity on us and just gives us his time for nothing. Recruiting is coming up after the break. We'll be right back.
We're with Major Billy Downer of the Department of Natural Resources. Major Downer, let's say I'm out in the woods or I'm on the water and I need to reach a DNR agent. How do I do that?
Operation Game Thief, Phil. It's been around 30-plus years. You can call us at our 24-hour hotline any time of day, 1-800-922-5431. To report wildlife violations or to get help if you're in trouble in the woods or on the water, call us at Operation Game Thief, 1-800-922-5431.
I'm attorney Jim Corbett. I'm not a case manager. I'm a lawyer for over 35 years. I don't charge 40% for your injury in your wreck case or any on-the-job injury. Call 803-765-2968 and ask for Jim Corbett or email me, jim@jimcorbettattorney.com, for the experience of a lawyer handling your injury case. Jim Corbett, 803-765-2968. Jim@jimcorbettattorney.com. Put 35 years of experience to work on your injury case.
You've put in the work for your education. The extra early, extra late, extra work. That's because you understand education opens doors to better pay, better opportunities, and a better you. Being educated about playing the lottery is no different. It helps you be a better player, one who knows when to play and when to take a rain check. The lottery's a game, so let's keep it fun. Learn more at sceducationlottery.com/betteryou.
George Bryant here for Tsunami Bar Sports, and some say the fun is in the winning. I say the fun is in the training. And Tsunami Robbie, what do you say?
George, we all know you get more done when you're having fun. This technology is different, it's engaging, but it's also a lot of fun to use.
Hi, this is Phil Kornblut. Be sure to click on the digital ad on SportsTalkSC.com and get 5% off any Tsunami Bar order using promo code BBB5. Don't wait, order today.
The Sports Talk Recruiting Report is sponsored by Seawell's Catering.
All right, juicy recruiting news coming up after we first tell you about a juicy menu over at Seawell's. Tomorrow's a Friday, but it's not a roast beef Friday. Don't interrupt.
Menu.
Huh?
You said you were going to tell them about the menu.
I said menu.
You said menu. Chris, can you confirm?
Hey, man.
I cannot confirm nor deny.
Okay.
Do not correct me with my slang. Okay, you can correct me if I mispronounce the coach's name or player's name. I know my menus.
All right.
We'll go back and listen to that. Anyway, tomorrow's not a roast beef Friday, but it is a roast beef tip Friday, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a beef tip and mushroom gravy Friday with fried flounder and chicken parmesan.
The gravy is, as Pat would say, the gravy. It's all about the gravy at Seawells. So check that out tomorrow, 11 to 5. And you got something coming up. Maybe it's going to be a wedding or a birthday party or a awards banquet or a corporate outing. All of that and above. All available for you at Seawells. You got something like that going on? You need the best in catering? Just give Seawells a call at 803-771-7385. So Clemson got a commitment from Rowan Byrne, offensive tackle, 6'6", 295 out of New Rochelle, New York. Last weekend was his official visit to Clemson. It was also his first visit to Clemson and his only visit for the recruiting process. He said it came down to being a priority, that he was a priority, someone who they wanted to be a part of the program, a big piece of it. Really liked the culture, and fitting in at Clemson was something he felt like he could do. Feels like their offensive blocking scheme is something that he'll be able to pick up because they do a lot of that, what they're doing in his high school. So he feels very good about the pick and very good about Clemson. Heavily recruited player, and chose Clemson over several other big-time programs. But he's not going to take any more official visits. He has done Michigan State, Penn State, for example, Florida State, also heavily involved. Stanford, heavily involved as well. He is the second commitment to come out of last weekend's official visits. Gives the Tigers 13 commitments for the 25 class. Defensive end Jaquavius Dodd of Eastside camped at Clemson earlier this week. The Tigers haven't offered. He has an offer from USC, but he won't camp there this summer. He is taking an official visit to Virginia this weekend. He has UConn and Virginia Tech the next 2 weekends. Clemson target cornerback Donovan Starr of Brentwood, Tennessee, committed to Auburn today. He visited Clemson last weekend and Auburn earlier this week. USC offered 2026 corner Jordan Crutchfield, 6'3", 200, Fort Pierce, Florida. 2026 offensive tackle Zion Giles, 6'5", 292 of Carver's Bay, offered by USC and Clemson this week after being seen in camp. Clemson in basketball offered 6'5" Isaiah Dennis of Davidson, North Carolina. 6'1" Jazzy Davidson of Happy Valley, Oregon, narrowed her list to South Carolina, Southern Cal, Duke, UCLA, TCU, and Texas. Per Gamecock Central, 5 USC players have entered the baseball portal, John. Left-hander Javara Martin, left-hander Jackson Phipps, infielder Carson Horning, right-hander Austin Williamson, and infielder Tristan Salinas. And official visitors for this weekend at South Carolina who have made their plans public, or these visits have been reported. Cornerback Brandon Finney, defensive end Kabi Saki-Pra, defensive tackle Kevin Wynn, linebacker A.J. Holloway, offensive tackle Juan Gaston, safety Christopher Hatfield, safety Laganza Hayward, tight end Preston Douglas, wide receivers Lex Cyrus, the committed Brian Rowe. That's what we have for the Gamecocks. No official visits at Clemson this weekend. They are done with their official visits for the summer. There you go with recruiting tonight right here on Sports Talk. And we're going to come back and dive even deeper. I thought I was going to sneeze.
Bless you.
We're going to dive even deeper into the Florida Clemson series. Nick Delatorre from Gators Online, senior writer covering the Gators. He'll tell us more about Florida and their approach to this series with Clemson. That's coming up after the break, and we'll be back. All right, we're back on Sports Talk, Thursday night edition. Big Thursday here in the Palmetto State. Big baseball series beginning tomorrow with the Super Regionals. Saturday as well, Clemson and Florida. They don't play until Saturday. We'll be up there tomorrow for the press conferences, mingling with the coaches and players, the practices, Sports Talk. We'll be live tomorrow night from the Clemson press box. Looking forward to being up there for that and there for the weekend of baseball.
Club DKS. You're going to have a good time.
DKS. Oh, yeah, Club DKS. Yeah, you weren't real thrilled by the music that they were playing. The amount of music they were playing.
Either.
Well, let's see if they calm it down or they keep it hopping there at DKS. We welcome in to Sports Talk from Gators Online, senior writer covering, of course, the Gators. We appreciate him being with us tonight, Nick Delatorre, to tell us more about the Florida side of things going into the regional, the Super Regional. Nick, welcome in. How are you?
I'm doing well. My first time in Clemson, South Carolina. Beautiful city here.
You're already there.
Yeah. We drove up and enjoying. Well, we booked and didn't know if it would be a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday series. Yeah. So just a day to travel and explore.
Well, you got to go to the SO Club, of course, right there off of campus, right behind Little John. Have you been to the SO Club? You got to go to the SO Club.
Not yet. I'm taking all recommendations, though.
Oh, yeah. That's a standard.
Groucho's Deli up in Clemson.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. No. And then, if you want to venture out of town just a little bit, but another place, and if you go at the right time, you might see Danny Ford, Max Drive-In out on the road, Pendleton Highway, Pendleton Road. I'm not exactly sure what the highway is. Max Drive-In, that's another staple. It's outside of Clemson.
That's quintessential Clemson.
Yep. And again, no telling who might drop in. So check those two places out amongst all the other places there. But thank you for being with us. And give us the Florida feel coming into this Super Regional after what the Gators did last weekend out at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, it's been a frustrating season for Florida. I made a note when Florida lost Game 2 of the regional in Stillwater that they hadn't won 3 games in a row since Games 2 through 6 of the season. And, of course, we're 60 games in now, so it's been a while. So I think Florida as a team, after having some injuries and going through their struggles, is kind of just taking a we have nothing to lose mentality, and it looks like they're having fun playing baseball. I think some fans were checking out about a month ago when Florida looked to be a bubble team, and we were wondering if they would even make the NCAA tournament. But they're certainly playing some hot baseball right now, and they've found some answers in the bullpen and on the mound.
Is that the biggest change with them? The last 2 games there at Oklahoma State, they gave up 2 runs in each of those games, so the pitching outstanding. Is that one of the big differences in what they are today versus where they were maybe a month ago?
Yeah, it was never going to be easy replacing Brandon Sproat and Hurston Waldrep from the team last year. In Florida, more so than I've ever seen, I've been covering them since 2013, has messed with the weekend rotation and changed the closer role and changed roles in the bullpen all season long. I think it took some freshmen kind of figuring it out and having the light flip on for them. But they've also had some injuries, and it has really shortened the bullpen. So I think it's been important for Florida's starters to go deep into games because they don't really have a ton of arms in the bullpen that they feel good about and trust. But those last 2 games in Stillwater, I think when you lose Game 2 of a regional, you kind of have to have some hero performances. And Brandon Neely striking out 11 over 5 in the third. And then Fisher Jamison, who's a junior but only had 21 appearances in his first 2 seasons out of the bullpen, coming in on Monday and retiring all 10 batters he faced. Those are the kind of hero performances you need to be able to come out of a regional that you lose Game 2 of.
Why do you think they're going with Liam Peterson as their pitcher on Saturday against Clemson? What do you think the thinking was going into that? Or is this sort of their normal rotation right now? Is this just the flow of their rotation?
Like I said, I've been covering Florida since 2013, and this will be Florida's 3rd different starter on a Friday or an opening series and that's the most since the first year I covered Florida, which was a decade ago. So there hasn't been an answer on Friday night, and I'll probably show my age, but I'd say the weekend rotation has been like a rotisserie chicken at Boston Market. It has been changing all year and moving and rotating. But down the stretch, Liam Peterson is a kid who I didn't think would get to campus. I think he just wanted to come to college and was going to bet on himself and try to be a first-round pick in a couple of years. He has that kind of talent. Early on, it was not working. And I think when you throw 95 in high school, you can kind of just do that, throw it down the middle and blow it by guys. When you get to this level, especially in the SEC, playing high-level D1 baseball, 95 is just another pitch to these guys. If you're not going to locate it, it's going to go a long way. So he was giving up a lot of home runs, giving up a lot of runs, was taken out of his weekend starter role. But down the stretch, he's pitched to just above a 2.0 ERA over his last 6 outings. So he's been Florida's best pitcher. Jack Caglione gets the headlines, and he deserves a lot of them. But Liam Peterson has been Florida's best and most consistent pitcher down the stretch.
How will they want to use Caglione as a pitcher, out of the pen or as a starter, maybe game 2? Though I noticed that it's, TBA for game 2, and then, if there's a game 3, TBA. How will they try to use him?
He'll start game 2. He's been Florida's Sunday starter, and really, I think they probably wanted to move him to Friday when they had some struggles early on in the season, in the middle part of the season. But to Jack's credit, he's really turned himself into an above-average to very good defensive first baseman. He's Florida's best first baseman. And I think starting a game is so taxing that Florida said, well, we can pitch him on Sunday, let him DH in our midweek game, and that would be the best way. Because they felt like if they pitched him on Friday, he would have to DH Saturday, and then you would go 2 games with somebody who is a lesser defender at first base. So once you get to this point of the season, though, you can't be counting for game 3. You have to make sure you win game 1 and game 2 before you start playing on game 3. So Jack will start on the mound Sunday night, or Sunday afternoon.
Oh, boy. That's going to be fun. Nick Delatorre with us here tonight, senior writer for Gators Online and also on 3 Sports. Nick, as you're sort of entrenched in Florida, you know exactly what Jack's going to bring to the mound. I don't know how much you've been able to delve into Aiden Canuck, who's going to oppose him on Saturday. Canuck has turned out to be Clemson's best pitcher, ERA below 3. Do you know much about him? And if so, how will that pitching matchup sort of dictate, do you think, how that game will turn out?
Yeah, when I start to look at Clemson and Florida, it almost to me looks like they're kind of similar. Maybe some questions about how deep the pitching staffs are. But both teams can hit. And I joked earlier today that we might end up with a couple of games with Big Ten football scores because I think Clemson can really hit and score. And I've seen Florida. Florida, in my mind, is as susceptible to giving up a 7-run inning as they are to scoring 7 runs in an inning. But, yeah, Aiden has been fantastic. And I wondered if Clemson expected him to be this good. Obviously very talented, but you never know when things click for freshmen. It'll be interesting. Florida's faced a lot of really talented pitchers. Hagen Smith, who's a Golden Spikes finalist, they had a little bit of success against him early. So it will be a challenge, and I'm excited to see him. I'm a baseball fan before anything else, so I'm excited to see Aiden throw.
You talked earlier about the fans, the Gator fans, because of what they anticipate that program being and having played in the national championship last year and the season that they had had throughout the regular season, sort of checking out a month prior to the end of the year. What camp were you in? Did you anticipate that Florida was going to get a bid into the NCAA tournament when they were knocked out of the play-in round of the SEC tournament, or did you think they were done?
I thought they were fine because the strength of schedule was 1, the RPI was top 30. And then it was just a question of, well, does the committee let 11 teams in? Because all of the other 11 and 13 and 17 SEC teams did well in Hoover, and it was like, all right, well, Florida has clearly dropped to the bottom of that 13 and 17 5-team mix, and they would be, in my mind at the time, the 11th SEC team, and the SEC ends up getting 11 in, and I was joking with one of Florida's coaches that, if you guys get hot, you have a chance because we've already gotten hot. So they're definitely playing confidently. And it's certainly new for them to have that kind of confidence just with the up and down nature of this season. Like I said, they hadn't won 3 games in a row since late February.
Nick, how much is Kevin O'Sullivan maybe downplaying coming back to Clemson where he had success as an assistant coach? And I was looking at it's hard to believe this will be the first time Florida and Clemson have played baseball since 1983. Yeah. You would think those programs would have just by accident backed into one another. So, I mean, how big a deal do you think this is for Sully coming back to Clemson this weekend?
I don't know. I don't know that it is. I asked him, and he said he hadn't even been back to Clemson since he left. I sent him an old picture. Looked like he was throwing BP, and I said, "Yeah, you look young. You look good here, Coach." Which he thought was funny. And I saw a place near campus called Sully's Steamers. So now I question if he was lying to me. Maybe he has a business here in Clemson. It has to be a cool moment because it's been 17 years. He's obviously found some great success, but he was so close with Coach Leggett and obviously Coach Bakich and Coach Corbin, and what a coaching staff that Clemson had. So I think it will be cool for him to come back and see it. But, yeah, I think this year has been tough for him. I typically ask the first question at press conferences, and Florida had, 3 ways that they would lose games, and I would kind of like ask him, hey, and he would throw his hands up. Like, I don't know what to do. I've yelled at him. I've coddled him. We've changed the lineup. We've changed the rotation. I don't know. So I think right now he's kind of just enjoying it. Like the team that he watched play really well in the fall, then struggle in the spring, has started to figure it out. So I think he's enjoying it and kind of along for the ride right now. And it will be interesting. Florida last year lost to a Big 12 team in their own regional and then played a team from South Carolina in a super regional. So there's some similarities this year as to last year. So I think there's a bunch of stuff going on. But, yeah, I'm sure once he gets time to look back on it, he will enjoy having come back here and to see the campus and see his former program.
Yeah, and you know that whenever time there's an opening in these parts, Sully's name comes up. Any chatter down in Gainesville this week about the South Carolina job and him? Anybody have any inkling of a belief that he might entertain something like that or feel like he's still locked in solid with the Gators?
He just signed an extension in December through 2033. The average per year salary is $1.8 million. I think
I'd say he's safe there.
Yeah, I would agree.
I think Coach Kingston is making $700,000. So if South Carolina wants to pony up and pay more than $1.8 a year, maybe. But he's got his family in Gainesville. His kids are in middle school. One of them close to entering high school, and I think he's very content in Gainesville. He told me when we broke the news about his contract that in his mind this would be his last contract, and he'd probably retire after it.
Yeah. Well, look, they've given him a new stadium, and he's got it still rolling down there, and got a chance to get back to Omaha again if they can handle their business this weekend. Nick, we thank you very much. See you at Clemson tomorrow. Don't get arrested there by the Clemson police overnight. They're they're finicky people there. Be careful.
And Nick, before you go, since you were asking about food places, you brought up one I was told about. I didn't eat there this past weekend. That Sully Steamers place actually is a sandwich shop that uses, instead of bread, they do bagels for the bread portion of the sandwich, and they steam the bagels so they're a little bit softer. Evidently, it's a really good place to eat, so I want to check that one out too.
Well, I will tell Kevin O'Sullivan you like his establishment.
Pass that along to Coach.
And I'll try it out myself. Look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow, and I appreciate all your recommendations.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it. Nick Delatorre from Gators Online covering the Gators. He's already in Clemson. Gator fans, will there be any Gator chomping going on there? Hard to believe that O'Sullivan's never faced the Tigers before.
I was stunned it had been that long.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think those two teams in the tournament would have run into one another, but evidently not.
It is kind of weird, too, because last year it was the Gamecocks in the Super Regional against the Gators. This year it's the Tigers in the Super Regional against the Gators. Now, Florida was loaded with pitching last year.
Yeah, they were
loaded
really
with
good.
pitching. I mean, So maybe not as good. Maybe Clemson can take advantage of that and, of course, take advantage of being at home, something South Carolina did not have last year against the Gators. Okay, back to your calls in just a sec. I want to hit a couple of things. Our poll question of the week, who would you like Ray Tanner to hire as the next coach at South Carolina? 782 votes are in. 50% is dropping. 50% want a head coach from a D1 power. 26.5% Monty Lee. 16.8% Landon Powell. And 6.5% want a rising assistant coach. Still got time to vote on that on our Twitter at SportsTalk SC. And a couple of other major stories of the day around here, stories of interest, at least that I think are interesting. Furman basketball coach Bob Ritchie has hired some new assistants, Kyle Marshall, Kip Owens, John Uribe, and Rhett Lister, a former Paladin guard. They're joining the staff. Marshall was an assistant at South Dakota State. Owens was the associate head coach at Flagler. Uribe comes from UAB. He'll be the director of men's basketball sports performance. And Lister will be assistant coach and director of operations. He was a GA at Kent State. The Cricket Celebration Bowl, today ESPN announced the dates of their bowl games that they're sponsoring and televising. Of course, the Cricket Celebration Bowl, this involves potentially South Carolina State. That's going to be the first bowl game of the season. It will be on December 14th. The game is scheduled for the second week of December for the first time. And
that's the same weekend of Army-Navy?
Isn't that the week before? Army-Navy is usually the same time as the Touchstone Energy Bowl. It's usually that same Saturday.
Yeah. Right, which is the second weekend because that first weekend is championship weekend in the conferences.
Everything's getting pushed back, isn't it? You're right, and I think high school championship games are like December 5th or 6th or something like that.
Yeah.
A little bit later this year. So
that's
maybe you're
be
right.
A busy day.
Maybe you're right.
I just looked it up. It is December 14th.
Okay.
Army-Navy.
I didn't realize everything got pushed back that far. The NCAA has approved a policy change to allow schools to place corporate logos in the middle of their football fields.
Seawells at Williams-Brice Stadium. It just makes too much sense.
How about Sports Talk? I want to put Sports Talk right at the 50-yard line with
at
our
both
phone
Clemson
number.
And at Williams-Brice. I think that'd be great.
Get ready to cough up the change for that, Phil.
You don't think I have the money?
And you think the SO Club could do Clemson? Maybe the SO Club at midfield underneath the Tiger Paw?
Who knows? Hey, listen, if you got the money, they'll be happy to take it off your hands. By the way, the Myrtle Beach Bowl, the 5th edition of the Myrtle Beach Bowl, boy, how quickly time has flown.
Amazing.
December 23rd at 11 in the morning. So begin
Merry Christmas.
Begin your Christmas Eve with the Myrtle Beach Bowl featuring, who do you think? That's the Sun Belt and
Conference USA and also the MAC.
Yeah.
They picked the two teams out of that trio.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Didn't mention this last night, I don't think. Did we mention this? Coastal, their pitching coach is out, Jason Beverly.
No, we did not. We did not touch on Coach Beverly.
Yeah, so he's out after 3 seasons. So change over there, of course, in the coaching staff with Coach Gilmore, of course, retiring. Okay, there you go. Back to your phone calls, 888-898-2525. We haven't heard from this gentleman in a while. I was going to call the FBI to see if they could locate him. Tiger Bryan over in Lancaster. Welcome in, Tiger Bryan. How are you?
Well, I'm doing good. We've been on a camping trip on catfishing and brim fishing.
Oh, man.
Yeah. Wife beat me like a pet coon brim fishing.
I bet she did. She knows how to attract the fish.
Well, she could catch them. I couldn't. But normally, I'm the man. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't let her beat me now. You can ask anybody about Tiger Bryan fishing. I'm serious, bro. I'm telling you what, bro. It's like watching Carolina Clemson game. You know what I mean?
You get focused. You get really where did you guys go fishing?
We went down Lake Water Reef, that state park.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Powder Creek side. If you ever want to go camping, that's the nicest side.
Did y'all take the RV, or did you take the camper, or the?
Take the camper. We got a nice camper. Yeah. But I was listening about that Florida guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what about my Tigers baseball team? They don't never get up. How many times we come back?
25 or more. Yeah, it's like 25.
Right.
25. Yep.
And it's different. It's different players that win the game. They play as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
They ain't no big superstar. What was that kid's name we had played shortstop years ago? Old blonde-headed boy. He was money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was National Player of the Year. That was
right. Yep.
Khalil Green.
2010. Khalil Green. In fact, he got the National Player of the Year
it.
in Omaha. Yeah. I went to that. I went to that announcement and presentation. Yeah, and he was a good player in the major leagues for a while. Then he had some issues. He had to retire. I think he had some things going on in his head. Led to him retiring.
I'm gonna tell you what. You talk about putting SportsTalk on the middle of the field.
Yeah, putting the logo, and maybe maybe put my face. We can put our faces on there.
Yeah, Gamecock there. Gamecock there on one side at the Gamecock place, and then me and you be on the Clemson thing.
Oh,
I hit the lottery. I don't care what.
I want my face at both places, so we can have Gamecock Larry in Columbia, and we can have you at Clemson. Yeah, that.
Yes.
I want everybody. We'll have Chris's mug, and we'll have Josh's mug. I want the whole family. I want the whole family involved.
All of them.
And you know what we're going to do? We're going to put the phone number out there, 888-898-2525. We're going to put the phone number out there with it. And, we might even have, as part of our deal, we might even play an old version of SportsTalk, like from that week, play it over the loudspeakers in the hour leading up. Have that playing in the stadiums as part of my deal.
They get to hear me and Gamecock Larry. Hell, they might be running that stadium.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Hey, that's something we could add to that too.
We've been camping. We've been out and about. Might come back home and clean up the grass.
Did you cook your fish on an open fire out there at the campground?
No, we catch and release. Yeah.
Well, that's
every
big
fish
of
I
you.
catch, I release.
You never eat the fish you catch?
It's been a long time, probably 15 years. It's just a sport and competition, me and Miss Tiger Brown.
Yeah, I got you. So it's just between the two of you. It's a competition. What's the prize? If she wins, you get her, and if you win, she gets you. What's the prize?
No, I have a honeydew list every day. So sometimes she'll scratch some of them things off the honeydew list. She gets me. She get Miss Tiger Brown takes care of Tiger Brown and whatever I need. You know what I mean? She's awesome.
All right. We're running out. We're running out of time. We will catch you
y'all have
tomorrow.
A great weekend.
Thank you.
And the Tigers, if Tigers win the first game, it's over.
Oh yeah. At home, you get up 1. You'd like your chances. All right. Thank you, Tiger. Brian, real quick, want to mention they're playing
going to the mound.
Yeah, they're playing the Memorial up at in Ohio. Adam Hadwin at 6 under, and Scotty Scheffler's at 5 under. Xander Schauffele is at 4 under. So good start for him. Colin Morikawa is 4 under. And locally, we have Lucas Glover, not a good day, plus 678 for him. Only local in there. Okay, I'll be at Clemson tomorrow. Chris, what are you doing?
I'm going to be down at the beach this weekend. Getting together on Saturday with some buddies to play golf. So, yeah, looking forward to it. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry I wasn't available.
Me too. You could have been our 4th.
See you tomorrow.